Oh, I lost Akshi. Okay, you're back. All right. All right. Good afternoon, ladies. Hope everyone is doing well today. As you know, we're going to be hosting our networking workshop for you girls today. So, as you know, we have Mrs. Akshi Mohla leading us through the workshop. And before I go ahead and, spill her bio, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Nerdy Girl and, how I help out here. So I am a program coordinator on the board. And so, this is sort of like what I do, putting together some programs for the girls, that gives them exposure, knowledge, just different avenues for them to build soft skills and, become the leaders, the female leaders that they are trying to be. I think just a few housekeeping items as well before I also introduce Akshi here. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat, and at the end we will get to the questions. And if we don't get to every question, I believe Christina would be responding to some and sending that out after the workshop. So if you have questions, just put them in the chat as we go through the workshop. So yes, fun fact, actually. So actually, Mola, she is a procurement solutions consultant at the cloud software juggernaut SAP. And in her position, she advises organizations of all sizes who are seeking to make a digital shift in their procurement process. As an engineer, actually has the drive to make good systems better. She has served as a feature presenter at various practice events for industries, user groups, and delivery and inclusion initiatives. Prior to joining SAP, actually worked with oil and gas clients such as Chevron Pipeline and ExxonMobil. Outside of her work, actually serves as a teaching volunteer for Black Girls Code, a nonprofit devoted to providing computer coding lessons to young girls from underrepresented communities. She is a program officer and consultant for the Stimulating Urban Renewal Entrepreneurship Program and is a board member of St. Michael's Learning Academy. It's an SAP Veterans to Work Partner organization. And in addition, she is a polyglot. I didn't know that, who speaks 5 languages fluently. So please welcome Akshi. Akshi, you have the floor. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. I am getting echo. So can everybody mute their mics?
I need to do that.
Awesome. With that, I'm very excited to be here today. Like Chidima mentioned, I am passionate about diversity and inclusion initiatives, and I volunteer and teach with Black Girls Code. And today I'm happy to expand that and to be here with Nerdy Girls. And I hope everybody finds today's session on networking very insightful and helpful, because networking is something that does not come naturally to me. I'm naturally shy, introverted, believe it or not, I am. Interaction wears me down. I need my me time to unwind and get my energy up. So today I will be sharing networking tips with all of you. With that, if my slides can be made bigger to take the full screen, I would love to jump into the presentation. Awesome. With that, before kicking things off, I wanted to start with a question. What is common between a human brain and Play-Doh? So take a guess. Take a moment and either put your responses in the chat. Yeah, just put your responses in the chat. Dana coming in first with moldable. I like that. I like that a lot. Anybody else? Any other guesses? Awesome. Well, Dana is right. The human brain is moldable just like Play-Doh, and you can leave impressions on both. So think about that for a second. A networking opportunity is nothing but an opportunity for you to leave an impression on somebody's mind. With that, My name is Akshi. Mohla. Chidima did a wonderful job at introducing me. Like she said, I'm a solution consultant at SAP, and it is the biggest ERP software company in the world. And like and before joining SAP, prior to joining SAP, I got my MBA at the University of Houston, and my undergrad was in aerospace engineering. So that's literally rocket science. And let me tell you, networking is not rocket science. It's much more easier. Um, Outside of my software career, I am also a part owner and help manage the marketing and branding of my husband's music company. So we're both young and we both hustle together. All right. With that, let me, before I get into what networking is and how we can go about it, let me ask you another question. What scares you the most about networking? What are your biggest fears? Go ahead and type in the chat. And Chidima, at this point, I will put you uh, on the center stage a little bit. I know you began your journey as an international student, so things might have been difficult for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so tell me about your experience a little bit. What
Yeah,
used to
so
scare
when
you
it
the
came
most?
to when it came to networking, I think like you, I'm also an introvert, and it does, take a lot of energy for me to be in those sort of gatherings. So I think, what scared me the most was, not being able to say the right things or just hold a conversation or like even make a good impression, on who you're talking to. So yeah, I think those were some things just off the top of my head.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Chidima. Look at that. It's awkward. And I'm an introvert. Will they even like me? Where do I even begin? This is what Chidima said, and this is everyone's story, really, right? I have no real world experience. Dana, once again, saying something stupid, silly. I am shy. People may think I am an extrovert, but I'm nervous. Exactly. That's the story of my life. So, how about we switch the way we think about networking? Now, we all talk on a daily basis, right? We talk. We're talking right now. We talk to our friends, we talk to our family, we talk day in and day out to our colleagues, right? It comes so naturally to all of us. So, why don't we look at networking like this picture? It is an opportunity for a great conversation, which puts you on the radar of a new contact. Now, take a moment and read that once again, right? Like I said, a conversation, it is a conversation. It is a conversation that can expand your network, that can further you as a professional. But at the end of the day, at the core of it all, it is just that. It's just a conversation, right? So let's break this scary, daunting experience, this uncomfortable concept, into three simple bite-sized ingredients. Just like cinema has, movies have a trailer, they have the main movie, and finally we have the climax, right? So with that, let us get into that. So uh, our trailer is the elevator pitch. So what is an elevator pitch? This is where you provide your short and sweet introduction, a big emphasis on short. It should be 30 to 60 seconds long. And this is where you tell someone who you are, what you do, and why they should want to speak to you, right? Very important. Why should they want to speak to you? What is in it for them? This is where you meet someone at a career fair or a seminar or even an elevator, just like the name suggests, right? And you introduce yourself and what you do, who your customers are, and what you do make a difference to the world. Now, if you're thinking, Akshi, listen, I'm a high school student. I don't have customers. What difference do I make? What does that even mean? I'm here to tell you that yes, you do. Now, here's the thing. As students, you're all studying something, right? You're studying some subjects. You're involved in activities. You have interests, you have ambitions. You might be in student council, and you all have ambition. That's why you're here today. That says something about you. That says a lot. So you all are good at something. These things make you you. Now, all that is left to do, the work that is left to make an elevator pitch, is to take that and package it for your audience, to make it relevant to a hiring manager, maybe an admissions counselor, whoever your audience is. So, not so long ago, I was myself a student. Shadima and I went to U of H together. And I used to attend seminars like this one, and I would hear people say a whole bunch of nothing and give all this advice. And I would say, okay, that's great. But what does that mean? You're asking me to create a catchy intro. What does that mean? How do I do that? And I used to look like this kid a lot. Like, okay, stop talking. How do I actually do this? So, with that, here I have three examples of four Disney princesses. So, in Disney movies, we have a lot of singing and dancing. We cannot imagine these ladies in corporate America, but they do belong there. And this is how they can market themselves. So Snow White, she can say, I successfully managed the operations of a team of 7 in a jewelry mining startup. We all know the dwarves used to go outside, mine their jewelry, and she was managing the household. So this is how she can make it into business speak. She can make it relevant to a hiring manager. Cinderella, I'm a self starter with expertise in sustainable fashion and lifestyle. She was able to take her stepmothers and stepsisters' throwaway clothing and was able to make something out of it. When that was taken away from her, she was able to use a pumpkin to create a carriage, right? That says something about her. That is what a hiring manager wants to hear. Elsa and Anna, we led change management and diversity and inclusion initiatives in an international merger. Now, those of you who haven't seen Frozen 2, I'm sorry, spoilers ahead, but these two got together and they brought together two communities, two multicultural communities. And this is how you can translate your experiences. So think about this could be a homework assignment for all of you. Just think about your experience, the things you do today, and how you can translate into corporate speak. So whenever you think that I don't have experience, yes, you do. You do have experience. Awesome. With that, let us tie up everything we learned about the elevator pitch. Now, the top point, if you can research who you want to talk to and why, this stands true for any networking event. Most of career fairs, you would be able to see a list of companies who are participating. So look into them. What are your interests? If it's a university fair, what kind of majors are you interested in? What kind of programs are you interested in? Do your research. Who do you want to speak with? Where does that fit in with your goals? Think about that. Research the people you're going to talk to. It's going to be very, very beneficial. Be agile, adapt your message to the situation. Now, it can happen that you are ambitious, you want to go into software field, and you wanted to talk to Microsoft. That's your dream company. You go to the Microsoft booth, you have researched them in and out, you know everything. You're ready to have that conversation, and the manager says, sorry, we're not hiring anybody in undergrad right now. We don't have internships to offer. We're only looking for full-time. Does that mean the conversation has to end right there? Absolutely not. How about you switch it now? You can say, well, I understand you're not looking for an intern right now. However, I would love to have an informational interview with you. I would love to know more about your company, the kind of profile that you hire. Uh, you can have that conversation. I would love to shadow you a day in the life of a software engineer at Microsoft. So you can still have that conversation. You can still get a LinkedIn connection out of this, right? That conversation does not have to end. You can say, I would love to stay in touch with you. And like I said, people, all kinds of scenarios are different. People are different. And sometimes you will hit a dead end. It will happen. You might go over to somebody who might have zero interest in talking to you. They might just say that, sorry, we're not looking to hire. Sorry, I don't want to have this conversation. Fine. Don't be phased. Just move on to the next one. It's a numbers game. You're there to make connections. Make another one. With that, we are done with our trailer, and now we move into the meat of the situation. We move to the movie, which is the actual conversation that you would be having. So this is where the research you have done on them comes in handy. People want to help people that they like. So, like I said, look them up on LinkedIn if you can. Did they go to the same school as you? What articles do they post? What are their interest areas? Look into all that. And if you're not able to get that granular on a person to person level, do your research on the company instead. So you can ask more intelligent, meaningful, more pointed questions. So instead of saying, hey, are you offering internships? You can say something like, I saw on your website that you have an early talent program. What are the qualities that you seek in an ideal candidate? That sounds different, right? Or if you're approaching a university counselor, you can say, I saw that your university has an inbuilt co op program. What kind of companies do you partner with? So these kind of questions make you more memorable, they make you more sticky. And now here I said, what is the weird thing you have in common? So if you were paying attention earlier, there is a baby Yoda sitting right behind me, right? So say if you were to network with me and you brought up that, oh, by the way, yeah, I saw that baby Yoda on your screen. I love sci-fi. What did you think about Mandalorian? Now I'm no longer thinking about this as a professional connection, right? I'm thinking of you as a person. Now you have made that connection with that person, and that's the importance of finding that oddball thing, that human thing that you have in common. Before joining, Christine and I were talking of how both of our husbands are musicians, and now our conversation became more personal, right? And you want to create that kind of connection. With that, say you have had the conversation and you have heard the kind of skills that they're looking for. This is when you start bragging, but you have to brag. There's a tact to this, there's an art to this. So let's talk about that. Say you're talking to this hiring manager and they said that they're looking for somebody who can stay calm in high pressure situation and is a team player. And then you respond to that by saying, hi, I'm a team player and I can totally stay calm. Do you think the hiring manager is going to hire you? Put it in the chat down below. What do you think? If you just parrot exactly what the hiring manager told you. I don't think so, right? You just parroted them. Exactly. However, if you told them a story that, in my senior year, I was working in this group project with these four other people, and two of them would just not pick up their weight. Now, I had to use my diplomacy and my people skills to get everybody on board. I was able to find out what they were interested in and how they can use their strengths for the project. Now, by showing me that, and you can say like, oh, there was a deadline and we worked around that. Now by hearing your story, you have given me a solid example that you can stay calm under pressure, you can be a team player, you can be a leader. So that's the importance of stories, right? So once you hear what they're looking for, tell them the real world stories that you have which pertain to those qualities. And once again, like I said, the idea is to be memorable, yes, but you also have to be professional. So we all know that guy or that girl who we're like, who invited this person? So we never want to be that person. Like that's one way of being memorable, but that's not how we want to be memorable. We want to be professional. We want to look professional, dress professional, act professional. Okay. And finally, second to last is what is in it for them in the conversation. Make sure that you are answering that question. It's not a one-way street in which you're like, can you refer me? Can you do this for me? Can I do this? Make it what is in it for them. If they're seeking certain qualities, answer that. If now obviously they're at your university career fair or they're at a career fair, so they're hiring. So at that's something that Chidima was a champion in back in graduate school, in which you can approach them as a leader. Say, I would love to have you come over and talk to our students, our senior graduating members. Now you're talking, you're doing them a favor, and you're showing your leadership. So keep that in mind, what is in it for them. And think about it this way. If I were to approach you guys and I would say, hey, that's a nice Tesla you have. can I take it for a spin? Can I borrow your Tesla? Can I borrow your car for a whole week? And I'll give it to you. I promise. I promise. You wouldn't trust me, right? Like, who are you again? So that same thing goes during a career fair, during a networking situation, when you're talking to somebody and you're like, can you please refer me? Can you please give me an internship? They don't know you. So think about making that connection and having a reasonable ask. And finally, the most important thing, if you remember one thing from this conversation, from this session, it's to listen, listen, listen. So listening is very, very important. I know right now we're all in different parts of the US. So right now we can't do this exercise in real time, but this is my challenge to all of you. Pair up at home after the session. It could be your family member, it could be your friend, right? And spend 3 minutes just listening to them. So both of you discuss a situation in which you felt misunderstood or you felt talked down to. And in those 3 minutes, when one of you is talking, the other person cannot interject, cannot put in their opinion, cannot even if you want to give them a solution, an advice, you cannot say anything. You just have to listen. And once those 3 minutes are over, you can take that 1 minute to give your thoughts, and then you switch. For 3 minutes, you explain about a situation in which you felt misunderstood, and then they can give their feedback in that 1 minute. So why do I say this 3 minutes versus 1 minute thing? In any given conversation, think about it like that. Listen 3 times more than you talk. Why is that important? Because you might gain a lot of Easter eggs. So going back to my Microsoft example, you go to the Microsoft booth and they say that they are not hiring for an intern right now. But if you were listening, they might during the conversation say something like, oh, but my best friend, my neighbor, she works for HPE and right now she needs a team of 5 interns, and you're not listening and you just you're thinking of the next thing to say, and you're like, yeah, but I would love to do an informational interview with you. I would love to shadow you. You completely missed the Easter egg that they had in the conversation. So the idea is to listen, pay attention to what the other person is saying, and not trying to fill in every silence or thinking of your response while the other person is talking. This one was the most difficult for me. That's why I would highly encourage everybody to try that exercise after this session. With that, we are finally at the climax of the movie, right? We have to always begin with the end in mind. Why do I say that? We have all been a part of a conversation in which even with your friends, sometimes conversations just tend to linger on very, very awkwardly. You're nodding and you're smiling and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll talk to you later. Yeah, I'll talk to you. Yeah, I'll text you. And it just keeps awkwardly going. And then you're like, okay, I guess bye. We don't want that to happen. That is so unprofessional. That is so awkward. So before the conversation gets to that point, do these three. These three. Recap the main points or action items. Put in a soft ask such as, I would love to keep this connection going. May I add you on LinkedIn? Would you be open for an informational interview? Would you like to grab a coffee where we could go over my resume? Can I send you my resume for some feedback? And finally, say thank you and mean it, right? And speaking of thank you, one of the ways to keep a connection going and to avoid the connection getting cold is to send thank you notes. I cannot iterate it enough. That's a great practice to keep yourself memorable. Send somebody a thank you note and just recap all these things again. Recap the action items, what you spoke about, the main points that, hi, it was great talking to you today at ABC Career Fair. We talked about this, and this, and I really like that you told me to do this, and that. Thank you so much for your advice. My resume is attached. I look forward to staying in touch. And just like that, the way you end the conversation is exactly the same. So I would be getting to you. Thank you for this conversation. I will be getting back at you with my renewed resume. I will take into account all the changes you asked me to make. Also, I was thinking, can I add you on LinkedIn? I would love to keep this connection going. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the advice you gave me today. And exit the conversation. That's it. Done. Over. This is where you exit powerfully and gracefully. And this is how you avoid that awkwardness, right? With that, I want to leave you with these top five actionable takeaways. We learned from the Disney princesses today that we all have something to offer. Think about your experiences. Go home. Think about it. Uh, what clubs are you a part of? What kind of leadership you have been a part of? What skills do you have? And how that could fit into the context of an internship or a job or anything else that is your goal. Remember to be memorable. How can you stand out? You have to understand, in a career fair, in a networking situation, people meet hundreds and hundreds of people. What would make you stand out? Right? So think about that. Listen actively because we can gain a lot of Easter eggs from a conversation. Have a clear and reasonable ask. On the first meeting, you cannot ask somebody to borrow their Tesla. In the same way, on the first meeting, you cannot ask somebody for a job, for an internship, right? So keep it reasonable. Keep it something like, can I add you on LinkedIn instead? And finally, sometimes you would do everything right and things just may not work out. And that's okay. What we can do is that we can just keep swimming and not get phased. With that, I began the conversation by asking everybody that what does Play-Doh have in common with human brain? And what we realized was that the commonality is that they both are moldable and we can leave an impression on both of them. So think of networking the same way. This is your chance to expand your network, but also influence others, leave an impression on somebody else. With that, I would like to open up the floor for some of your questions. Thank you, everyone. Chidima, I think you had some questions. You can start with those.
Thank you, Akshi. I was waiting to see if the girls had questions because that was so good. um, so yeah, we could dive into the questions. Let me see. I think, something a lot of people maybe can relate to, as I was saying earlier, is, you're introverted and you're not sure what to say, and this could be outside of your comfort zone. So for the more so shy and introverted people, what are some like tips you could give to help them really get out of their comfort zone and just avoid burning out at networking events?
That's a great question, Chidima. And I like the fact that you said to avoid burning out. That's very
Mhm.
important. And I would start by saying that be kind to yourself, A, and set realistic goals and set small bite-sized goals. So what does that look like? So instead of going to a networking situation where you will be overwhelmed and say, okay, I am armed with 15 resumes and I will talk to 15 companies, that's too much. If you're shy, if you're introverted, you're just getting there, right? It's so one thing, Chadim, I've gotten really into weightlifting recently. I
Mhm.
started with 5 pounds. I did not start with 30 pounds. That's not realistic. So
Mhm.
start with that 5 pound weight. In networking, what that looks like is like today I'm going to go there and I'm going to talk to three companies. Top three
Mhm.
companies. I'm going to give them my resume. I'm going to have a conversation. And once that's done, it's done. Don't push yourself. Just try that. Next time, maybe try four, maybe try five. Be kind to yourself, be realistic, and set smaller goals.
I love that. Yeah, that I know I can relate to that. That definitely helped me. You go there and you have a list, you have an agenda, you say, okay, I'm gonna talk to these three people. and
Right.
that's it, so I don't burn out. So I like that advice. Okay, so next question. How long would you say, an encounter conversation, I guess, with someone should be on average while networking? So you don't get to a stage where it becomes awkward and there's nothing really left to say.
Right.
And also for people that are looking to do informational interviews, typically how long should those last?
Okay, so I'll answer the second part first. Informational interview, you have to be respectful of somebody else's time.
Mhm,
So I would say stick to 20 minutes
mhm,
for those 20 minutes. If they want to keep talking to somebody, you sometimes people love to talk and they love to help. So you
mhm,
might get into a scenario in which they want to keep talking. And that's not when you say, okay, my 20 minutes are over, bye. We don't want to do that. If they want to keep talking, you can say, hi, Mr. or Miss So and so. I realize I'm at 19 minutes. I'm so close to my end time. Is it okay if we keep talking a few more minutes? And if they're saying, oh, yeah, 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 no problem. Yeah.
mhm,
So check in with them. And if they're willing to go longer, that's totally fine. And thank them for it. That thank you so much. We only had 20 minutes scheduled. You spoke to me for a whole hour. I appreciate it so much. Right. And now let's go to networking.
mhm,
Networking, the sweet spot is around 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes.
mhm,
However, again, uh, this is again where you play by ear. You have to see what the other person's personality is. Some
mhm,
folks would be verbose and they're on a roll, they're talking. You have to see what the other person is doing. The person, it's all about them. If they're
mhm,
in the mood to talk, let them talk. That's not where you would say, okay, my 5 minutes are over, bye. Again, we
mhm,
won't do that. If if wanting to talk, talk. And being aware of your surroundings. If you're in a career fair, there are 10 people behind you in the line,
mhm,
okay, that's when you 3 to 5 minutes, I would say 3 minutes in that scenario, make your impression, have your ask done.
mhm. Nice. Okay. So we have a question from one of the girls, Jocelyn. She's asking if you're in an awkward situation during an interview, what are some ways to leave a conversation?
So that depends on the kind of awkward situation that is. But what in my scenario, one of the best things I've seen is the ability to laugh at yourself. So sometimes in an interview, sometimes things would happen. Either I stammer or I say something funny or something happens. In that moment, you can say, like, huh, well, that's not how that is said, or that's not what I meant to say. Anyways, going back to the point. So laugh at yourself, take a second, and literally a second to laugh at yourself, and then get back into the topic. Don't dwell on it. Don't keep like, oh my God, I'm so silly. I totally dropped the ball. Oh my God. We're not going to dwell on it. We're going to acknowledge it and get back to the point.
Mhm,
So it would be something like, oh, I don't know why I said that. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's jump right in. So we were talking about this, this, and this.
mhm,
Acknowledge it, jump right back in.
mhm, mhm. Okay, I like
It's all
that.
about not
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
yourself too seriously.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. And so, you were talking about really making a good lasting impression, how that is very important, when you're having conversations with people. I know you did talk about trying to find something in common that you guys have, but I know personally there have been situations where you can't necessarily just find something in common. Maybe it's like too short of a time, but you really want to make it a lasting impression because you're really interested in the opportunity. So, what
Right.
are some other ways you think, someone can do that?
Uh, that would be thank you notes, thank you notes, thank you notes. I
Mm-hmm.
did mention that. You can be very impressive. Of course, you will be. You would be dressed up sharp. You'll be asking all the right questions. But 10 of your competitors are also asking the right questions. They are also sharply dressed. They're all doing it. One of the ways to leave a lasting impression is to send that thank you note and to recap everything that you spoke about. So say, hi, we spoke about these A, B, and C, three top things that you spoke of, and I really like that you said this. Thank you so much for your time. Here's my resume. Love to stay in touch.
Nice. Okay. So I know we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and I think most of the girls might be having to network or build their network, virtually. So I think one of the places for that is LinkedIn. So for that, do you have any tips on how they could, stay engaged, be visible, via LinkedIn, as they try to build their network?
That's again a great question. So a couple of examples, a couple of stories came into my mind when you were saying that. So last year, there was the Theranos debacle was going on. There was a situation going on, and I was quite interested in it. And there was also a person in the industry that I used to look up to. So what I ended up doing, they had posted something about that. I was following them on LinkedIn, and they were posting over and over again about this thing, and I commented on it. And I put my own insights that, oh, I think about the scenario like A, B, and C. Uh,
Mhm,
and they were saying that, oh, I have some podcasts related to it. And I was like, would you mind sharing that with me? And
mhm,
then they commented below and they said, oh, I love your hunger for knowledge. They added me on LinkedIn. I did not have to add them.
mhm,
So sometimes you can get involved with conversations, the industry leaders that you look up to. And another story that came up to my mind was that my husband, he got hired off of LinkedIn, purely off of LinkedIn. Why? Because he was creating content. He was putting his best practices as you can write your own articles on LinkedIn. You can post your own blogs on there. You can post your own different kinds of posts and videos. So do that. That is where you make yourself stand out. So those are some of the ways you can make yourself stand out.
mhm. Okay. Nice. I think something else I add to that is, you could look for groups on there as well.
Yes.
Join those like areas of interest you have that do have groups, and then,
Right.
keep a conversation going. Um, just staying engaged on their people's posts as well. Even if you
Right.
don't have a post, you could repost what someone else says and just,
Exactly.
put your one phrase there, just, so you remain visible.
Mm-hmm.
um, Even sharing events is a way, to just make sure your profile stays a bit active. So
And go to webinars.
yeah.
Attend webinars. You can. That's a great way of knowing people, meeting folks the who's who. And what not to do is to ask for favors right off the bat. So don't do that.
Hmm. Okay. So another question. So sometimes, when you're talking to people, you may not really be sure that they're offering what you're looking for. So what are some good questions just to, hit that nail on the head and vet out, I guess, the opportunities and see if they're really right for you when you're talking to someone?
See, I would challenge that question a little bit and say, in networking, we're having a conversation. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking. We're just talking, and we're getting to know people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
maybe somebody, say, if you're meeting somebody from SAP, they don't have internships right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not mean that that connection has to end just because you're not getting what you want in that moment. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. At that point, I would still say keep that connection going. Those could be your warm connections, right? Okay, I'm not going to act on this today,
Okay.
but I would keep this in my back pocket. I would keep this connection warm. I would talk to them time and again, every few months, just keep it warm so that they know who I am. Because maybe they're not offering internships right now, but every freshman becomes a senior and they graduate one day, and then they want a full-time job, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
they might want to have that connection that they had.
Mm-hmm.
So to switch your perspective, you might not be getting what you want today, but you have to think about long
Right.
term as well.
Long term. I like that. Okay. So, I say, how do you advise, someone to, you know, personally keep the relationship going? I know you talked about it not being one-sided when it comes to networking.
Hmm.
So, just what are some ways for them to, continue to check in with their connections and just key things they could do, just to make sure that relationship is long-term sustainable for those they're really, interested in keeping.
Right, absolutely. So I would say keep your eyes out for what's going on in the industry. So say if you find a connection from uh, say software industry, right, or oil and gas, and that's when you can bring up to a thinker, to a thought leader from that industry that you're interested in. You can say, oh, by the way, today I ran into this article. What were your thoughts on this? I thought ABC. What were you thinking? What were your thoughts? And see, that's how you can keep that connection live, keep it going. If there is a mixer of that industry, you can ask them that, hey, are you going to this oil and gas mixer? I'm going, would you want to attend as well if they're not going? So that's one
Hmm.
of the ways you can keep that attention, that connection live.
Hmm. Yeah, and I know you said even, as a leader, you were referencing me saying, you could always, yeah, so that's a good point. You could always ask them, invite them to come, speak,
Right.
or even if you have mentorship or opportunities through your organization, or if there's a way for you to partner with them, to do something, that's always nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you, I know you mentioned that there are warm connections. I do
Right.
understand that. But how do you know, like, maybe a connection might not just be worth it for you?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a very objective way of working that. It's called the
Hmm.
3-point test. 3 point.
Okay.
So how do you do that? You met somebody and then you sent them a message on LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
They didn't respond. Or you sent them an email, they didn't respond. That was your connection number one, the first point. Number two, you try again, send them an email again in a week, saying that, because people can get busy, don't take it personally. They were busy. Say, hi, I sent you an email a week ago. We spoke about this. I would really love to keep in touch, right? I'll enjoy talking to you. And if they don't respond, third should be a call. If you have their number, if you're able to, give them a phone call, leave a message. And if they don't respond to you, that connection is dead. We're not interested in them. We're not talking to them. We're not wasting our time there. So, three communication points.
Mhm.
After three, if you don't get a response, done, over.
Okay. All right. So, last question. I would say, are there just any resources that you would like to share with the girls to help them continue to brush up like their networking skills?
Absolutely. So I put in a name in the chat, Amy Cuddy. If you're all not
Okay.
familiar with it, just Google her name. And she talks about the one portion that we did not cover today was body language, right? How do you exude confidence without even using your words? And
Mhm.
she is a social psychologist and she has some great tips, great TED Talks. I would highly recommend everybody to check her out.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Akshi. This was very informative, very refresher focus for me. But before we go, I would like to share with the girls that we do have a raffle or contest going on, and we'll be raffling up a Amazon gift card. So the rules are you do need to send, we did talk about an elevator pitch. So you do need to send an elevator pitch. I'll put the email and the details in the chat. You'll be sending it to Christina at nerdygirlsuccess.com, and you do need to send her that by July 20th in order to enter the raffle contest. So just to reiterate, yes, Christina just put it in the chat. Thank you, Christina. You would be sending your elevator pitch to that email address by July 20th in order to qualify for the Amazon gift card. So thank you so much, girls, for joining us. And thank you, actually. This was amazing.
Bye, y'all.